Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. Well, today is actually a pretty momentous day for the Packers and for Packer fans. This is a long time coming. Definitely a long time coming. So, I've mentioned before, I don't super care about these things at all. I don't put much stock in it in terms of what it means for the value of the player. But the players care a lot about it. And simply for that reason, I want it for the ones that deserve it. Now, what I'm talking about in this instance is the Hall of Fame. That applies to just about every award that's given to any football player, Pro Bowl, whatever. It's all stupid. But this was a very small class, which did not bode well for a couple of the guys that we've been hoping to get in. Only 4 inductees this year in the 2025 class. There is a new, more rigorous voting standard that requires 80% approval rate, which I appreciate, right? I think there should be extremely high standards to be able to get into the Hall of Fame. And it honestly makes it all that much more valuable for those that do get in. But there is a revamped selection process, tighter voting thresholds, and a more extensive screening process by multiple committees, which helps to narrow down the modern era finalists, leading to the exclusive class. Notably, the process also meant that first-time eligible players like Eli Manning and standout special teams player Adam Vinatieri were passed over this year. But the inductees, cornerback Eric Allen, played 14 seasons in the NFL, 88-94 for the Eagles, 95-97 for the Saints, 98-2001 for the Raiders, 54 career interceptions, which is a heck of a number. 2-time finalist, finally getting his shot in the Hall of Fame, Jared Allen, defensive end, obviously very well known being with the Minnesota Vikings, but also spent 4 years with the Kansas City Chiefs, and then 2 years with Chicago Bears, 1 year with the Carolina Panthers. 136 career sacks, ranking 12th all-time. Another very well-known guy to all of us, Antonio Gates, tight end. Whenever I see this, because I'm not super into the whole Hall of Fame thing, whenever I see this, sometimes I'm shocked. Like, how is that guy not already in? Antonio Gates, tight end, 16 seasons, every single one of those seasons with the Chargers. Very, very cool feat. 955 receptions, 11,841 receiving yards, and 116 touchdown catches. Maybe most impressive is that Antonio Gates was an undrafted player. But the most important, the fourth and final, Mr. Sterling Sharpe, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, played from 1988 to 1994, 595 receptions, 8,134 receiving yards, 65 touchdowns in his career. Obviously, the most devastating aspect of this, what would have been probably one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history, one of the greatest wide receiver careers, ended up getting cut short due to a neck injury. But this has been an every year thing for probably as long as I've been doing this podcast, and I'm sure long before that, trying to get Sterling Sharpe into the Hall of Fame. And again, it felt like a really unlikely thing with this class, only allowing 4, and you can see the names of some of the guys. And, when you look at it and say Jared Allen and Antonio Gates, it's going to be tough. But very, very deserving, one of the most talented receivers that the NFL has ever seen. Possibly the most talented and gifted receiver the Packers have ever had. So, in honor of Sterling Sharpe, I want to play a couple things. Both of these are a little bit better with video. You can surely go and find them, but they're still fantastic pieces that were put together. And so I want to play these for you. The first of which was put together by the Green Bay Packers.
Got to get the ball upfield for the Packers. I feel you need to go for the touchdown. I don't like playing for the tie here, and I don't know that that's what they're going to do, but if you want the touchdown right now. The clock at 1:12, 2 timeouts left.
Just don't get unhuddled here.
Here's Favre back to throw. Favre looking, now Favre running. Come on, run it! He's going to throw it to the end zone.
In the back of my mind, I knew if you don't know what you're doing, throw it to Sterling.
Touchdown! Sterling Sharpe! He got away and scored the touchdown! with 55 seconds left.
That was another sterling performance.
The time that he played, the numbers that he put up, absolutely 100% deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. That guy was an incredible player, and it's really not that much of an argument.
And the ball goes into the hands of the most dangerous guy on the field, Sterling Sharpe. Touchdown number 4 for Sterling Sharpe.
4th and goal. He's going to have to throw in the end zone. Throw it down, and touchdown! Sterling Sharpe! He caught it!
Do you realize that Sterling Sharpe, when he was playing at one point, the only receiver you thought was better than him was Jerry Rice, who's the greatest receiver of all time. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. He's a 3-time first-team All-Pro. I mean, he was a top 4 candidate for league MVP honors twice. He should have been in the Hall of Fame. Should have been there.
Touchdown! Sterling Sharpe!
One of the most physical, one of the best route runners, one of the best receiving guys that I've ever played against was Sterling Sharpe. How is he not in the Hall of Fame? I have no idea.
Here's Barnes to Sharpe. Touchdown, Rebay!
I know a lot of people say that he only played 7 years and that's not long enough. Well, I think 7 years of clear dominance in a row is plenty for people to judge greatness.
Now throws sidearm downfield. Sharpe! Touchdown! Sterling Sharpe! Oh, my goodness!
I'm the only pro football player that's in the Hall of Fame. And I'm the second best player in my own family.
Favre has Sterling Sharpe, and Sterling Sharpe has the record. Catch number 100 for Sterling Sharpe, the first player in NFL history to have 2 100-catch seasons.
One thing I can tell you about Sterling caught 100 passes when it meant something. He caught 100 passes being doubled. I mean, he was in the same era with the Jerry Rices, the Chris Carters, and all this, Andre Reed. I mean, the guy was phenomenal.
The greatest compliment athletically I've ever been paid was given to me by Jim Brown, who said I could have played in any era. And if you watch or if you get a chance to see some old footage of what they did to wide receivers, for him to say I could have played in any era is the greatest compliment I've ever been paid as an athlete.
Pretty powerful stuff. We heard his brother talking there, Shannon. Here's another one. This one's maybe even a little bit harder without the video, but Shannon is going to surprise his brother Sterling. Sterling's coming over to his house, greets his wife, goes downstairs, and that's when his brother kind of tells him that he's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Hey, babe.
What now? Hey,
Good to see
wait a minute. You wearing glasses now?
I am. I hate wearing my contacts.
Where's bro?
He's in the basement. All right, babe.
My man, you down here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I... What y'all got going on here?
Welcome, bro.
To your house?
Pro Football Hall of Fame, class of 2025. Myself, I wouldn't.
This is something oh, wow. Man, I need a seat and a drink. Let me grab Sam, this is crazy.
Who you telling?
Really don't know what.
All those nights and that 1,000 square foot home, all those prayers that Granny and Libby and so many people prayed that we didn't even know God was listening to have this moment, and I've had some great moments in my professional life, this is the proudest moment in my life.
That's how I felt when you went in. You know,
oh my God.
I felt like that when you went in. And you know I'm not a crier, but when you said that you were in, and that weekend that we had in Canton, man, I was like, ain't nothing topping that.
This tops it, man.
I
because the difference is you had to do this uncharted. There was nobody to tell you what to do, how to do it. You see, you had the hardest job because Papa was the hardest on you because he knew I was watching you. And because you didn't have a guide, you didn't have Google, you didn't have MapQuest, you had to do it on your own. And you had to do it and be perfect because I was watching. That's why.
I'm happy, man, because I finally get to follow you in something, man.
It's probably a good thing, makes him seem more, I guess, legendary or whatever. But man, it's crazy to think that I don't even know the guy. I mean, a lot of Packer guys. I mean, obviously Brett Favre. I mean, we got to know him as a person through his time in Green Bay, but also after the fact, and a lot of other guys, Packer fans, especially today with social media. I mean, I know Josh Jacobs better than I know Sterling Sharpe. Sterling Sharpe. I mean, I was obviously young and everything, but just with the media the way it was then, but also just how he's completely disappeared and disconnected himself. It just seems odd, It's a very interesting. It's just neat to be able to hear him and to see him and whatnot. I mean, I'll be honest. If I passed him on the street, I don't think I'd recognize him. But just seems like a great guy and obviously appreciative of what he did. We talk a lot about Brett Favre and Ron Wolf and Holmgren and how they helped to turn this franchise around. But it really started. It really started with Sterling. We might not have known it yet, and without all those other pieces, it wouldn't have come together. But man, when this thing really blew up, that guy was probably the best player on the team. You heard Brett Favre say, if I ever, I always told myself, if I ever didn't know what to do, throw it to Sterling. That was the guy. And a lot of other guys came in and made this a really, really good team. A lot of, the GM did a fantastic job for a team that just could not find talent. Man, they added a bunch of really solid pieces, draft and free agency, and turned this thing into a powerhouse. But yeah, that was the beginning. And obviously in the 80s, you didn't know it, right? You knew you had a stud, and that was cool, but you probably didn't feel like this was going to be some kind of a massive powerhouse team. And then the changes just keep coming, Brett Favre being the next biggest change, and the rest is history. But happy for Sterling. Again, you can't talk about Sterling without, I don't know, being regretful or just feel bad. I mean, I feel like he deserves more. And if the Hall of Fame is the recognition that he feels is adequate, then that's great. But man, it just sucks, I mean, when people have conversations about the greatest receivers of all time, remove Packer fans from the discussion. I don't know that his name comes up, and it should. But But from all of us here at Packernet, Sterling, we appreciate what you did. We appreciate you helping to put us back on the map. Appreciate you being a big part of keeping this franchise alive, and for being that first step in getting it back on track. So, with that, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. I want to get to a lot of media stuff going on right now. Jordan Love sat down with several people. Josh Jacobs sat down with even more. We'll see how much we can get through. But in that same interview where we did Jordan Love talking about T. Higgins yesterday, he was given the question, what are the two things that you specifically have to work on? Here's what he had to say.
What are the two things, you got to give me two, that you have to get better on for you to become the guy that we all believe you can be?
Same thing, consistency. I think it all starts with my feet with me, and just being consistent with my footwork. And
I wanted that answer.
And, at times my feet get off and the accuracy goes. So just to continue to focus on those things when we get into the game. Obviously, it's easy to do throughout the week, but when you get into the game and your brain kind of shuts off, be able to just go back on all those coaching points I worked throughout the offseason, throughout OTAs, and just fall back on my training. But just continue to be an accurate passer and make the right reads,
One thing
The guy can do it, man, and this is honestly all I wanted to hear. It makes me so nervous when I hear the excuses 24/7. We all know Jordan can do it. We all have seen Jordan do it, not just for a game or for a play, but for half a season, plus a couple little flashes this past season. Unfortunately, that's about as much as it was, a couple flashes. But it's part of what I liked about the whole Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft thing is just honesty. Just, I don't mind the diplomatic answers, and I understand the diplomatic answers, and I understand that some people are worried about not giving diplomatic answers, and that's going to cause problems, and that's fine. I get that. It's not their responsibility to tell us the brutal truth. I'm just saying from my perspective that the thing that I like about it is I just want you to know that I just want to know that you know it. It just makes me nervous when I'm watching a very obvious problem, and I have no problem saying, yeah, Jordan can do it and whatever. I have faith in that, but I don't have faith in somebody fixing a problem if they don't think they have one. And whenever there's an issue brought up about Jordan, it's always, well, the receivers aren't doing a good enough job. Well, we got to do this, and well, we got to help them. We got to block. We got to do this. It's like, okay, yeah, okay. The receivers are not premier number one receivers, right? Granted. The blocking, obviously, there are sometimes issues with that. Not, comparatively, it's pretty good, but still, of course, that's an issue. The injury, no question that played a part in this. In fact, that was the thing that we looked at numerous times. It was funny how much it came up. I'd go and look at a player. Max Crosby was one of them, but you look at a bunch of players and you go, well, he was really good early on, and then, he started to drift around week 10, and then I'd go run over to the robot and be like, can you break down some of the injury stuff that they went through? And they're like, yeah, they tweaked something week 3, and then they had a real bad injury week 10. They fought through it all year. Like, okay, well, there you go. So we've seen that that's clearly an issue with a lot of guys. We know that Jordan got hurt immediately week 1, so there wasn't really an opportunity to say, okay, here is weeks 1 through 5 where he performed like himself, and then he got the injury, et cetera, because that happened week 1, right? And then he was gone, and then he came back. We know he came back too early. He had an injury that caused a secondary injury, which was his groin injury, caused because of the knee injury. And so we know that, when that happens when you're favoring things, right? You cause injuries in other parts of your body because you're trying to overcompensate and protect for this part of your body. So if you're overcompensating and protecting and doing all these things, it's going to cause a lot of... Okay, I get all that. That's fine. And let's get him healthy, and let's get a new quarterback coach, and let's get him a number 1 wide receiver. Let's do all the things. Let's get a better offensive line even. I like our offensive line. Let's make it even better. Let's do all those things. I need to know that you know that there are issues. I need to know that Matt LaFleur knows, and not just making up excuses and going to, if you want to come and lie to me and then go to Jordan and be like, bro, this isn't good enough, and we've talked about this and you know this, fine. But it's got to be a thing. And so for Jordan to just have that off the top of his head, and he's regurgitating what is being told. That's the thing. I mean, what are the problems? Well, let me tell you what my coaches are telling me the problem is. And like you said, I got to get back to my coaching. I got to do X, Y, and Z. Good. Okay. That's all I needed to know. We're good now. Now, that doesn't guarantee anything. I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. But it feels good for him to talk about, yes, I know what the issues are, and beyond that, to acknowledge the accuracy and the decision-making was a problem because of it. Okay, so you have identified the issues. Not that there should even be dispute about that. I understand for some people, and some people are watching the tape and coming to different conclusions than I am, at least seemingly. I haven't really gone in depth, but I think it was Mike Wall made some kind of a comment about the receivers not running good routes or something like that. I'm like, look, maybe they're not running. I don't know to that degree of nuance, but I know what wide open looks like. So maybe he didn't get wide open the right way. Maybe he's not at the right depth. I don't really know, but I know what wide open looks like, bro. But even if you disagree with me on some things, you can't disagree with me on the accuracy. There's just no way. You're at that point, you're just lying. I mean, even if you want to say every single overthrow and underthrow and everything else is the receiver's fault, there's still some that are like, what the heck? What is that? And even the passes that got to the receivers were not very good. And I understand a lot of people blame the receivers for the drops, and it is their responsibility, but it's twofold. Very, very rarely was there a good pass that just got dropped. So, yeah, we got to, and he's never really been the most accurate. And honestly, that doesn't matter all that much. You know who else isn't accurate? Josh Allen. You know who else isn't accurate? Pat Mahomes. Historically, not super accurate. They fail the same kind of metrics. So I'm not saying that's disqualifying for being a good quarterback. Not at all. But it still does help. And if anything, let's just get back to, if you want to be a little bit off here and there, that's fine. But if we can just get back to the part where you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, and you can make the right reads and decisions, at that point, if you're doing that and the balls are a little bit off and your guys aren't helping you out, then I got your back. If you're doing everything 90% right, but it's just that little bit of inaccuracy, all right, at that point, we've got ourselves a Hall of Fame quarterback that just needs some guys with better hands. Fine. But no, it just felt good to hear Jordan immediately say, yep, footwork sucked, accuracy was off, decision-making, all that stuff, a lot of inconsistency, and we got to get back to that. Like, perfect. Thank you. Mina Kimes follows that up with something a lot of people are bringing up. Again, I think that this is overhyped, maybe not, but it's being talked about more so than it probably should be, and that is his athleticism. But it's certainly a thing.
One thing I've loved when I've seen it from you is mobility. You're an athlete. You can run.
And you make some of those crazy throws, where his feet are there.
Or falling backwards. The fadeaway is kind of your signature throw. But as far as the mobility goes, I was wondering if that's something maybe we might see more of. Obviously, you had the injury at the very beginning of the season. I don't know if that affected you this year, but maybe next year that's something we could see a little more of.
Definitely. That's one of those areas that, going back, watching the tape, that's something that I want to be able to improve and take my game to that next level. I think, obviously, the injuries did not help me in that aspect this year. Obviously, not an excuse, but that's definitely something I'm going to work on and keep trying to find ways to improve that in my game. And, you see some of these guys that are just, you look at Lamar, obviously, his skill set is different than mine, but just the plays you can make. Jaden Daniels having a great season, just extending plays and making plays with your legs that makes the defense just count for other things.
I love it. All right, you guys let him hear it.
All right, so look, I've said this before. Jordan Love, it's a stretch to say that he is a mobile quarterback. I've heard a lot of people talk about, like, this is the wave of the future. Like, if you're a pocket passer, then, you're not going to make it anymore. That's only true if we call Jordan Love a mobile quarterback. And I'll be honest, he's about as mobile as Aaron Rodgers was. There's not that big of a difference between the two. Aaron Rodgers could take off and run. Brett Favre took off and ran. It's granted, we're not talking Peyton Manning or Tom Brady where there's just no mobility, but we could probably put them into three different buckets. There's immobile, mobile, and then straight up athletes, track stars. So even if we go back to last year where Jordan obviously ran a lot more, he ranked where is he at here? He ranked 12th in rushing yards among you can call him 11th among quarterbacks. And that's with having played 19 games. Right? Sam Howell ran for 10 more yards and played in 2 less games. Sam Howell. It was like 36 more yards than Brock Purdy. He ran for 254 yards and 4 touchdowns. To put that into context, Pat Mahomes, who is not a mega athlete, but just semi-mobile, 530 yards. No touchdowns, but 500. That's double. That's more than double the yards. As far as the touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. Sam Howell had 5. Josh Dobbs had 6 in 13 games. Lamar had 7. Jalen Hurts, 15. Josh Allen, 18 touchdowns. Desmond Ridder ran for 5 touchdowns in 15 games. Anthony Richardson ran for 4 touchdowns in 4 games. So, yeah, look, I think Jordan is the kind of guy that if there's an opening, he can take off and pick up a first down. But very recently, there's this thing that has cropped up about Jordan should be taken off more and should be as though like it should be a design thing. I don't know that it should be anything other than what we had with Aaron Rodgers, which is if there's an opening, go take it. If you can pick up 4 or 5 yards on first down, do it. If you have an opportunity to pick up a first down, definitely do it. And I do think he probably held back from that a little bit. He only ran for like 93 yards. It was less games, but still, I'm not going to do the math, but 93 yards over the course of, come on, pull it up here. Yeah, 93 yards and a touchdown. So we can call it about half if we factor in the games that he missed. But I don't know that, 200 yards over the course of an entire season is going to make some kind of a massive difference. And with the injury issues, I don't know that I really want that to be a focus. I want to throw this in there as well. It's a little bit more Jordan Love. It's also kind of a segue into another topic that I kind of want to touch on a little bit. But Jordan Love sat down with Kay Adams, and Kay Adams kind of touched on the Davante Adams thing.
If we don't, we don't. So we'll see.
What if it's a guy who has my last name?
I'm not mad about it.
You're not mad at it. I mean, he speaks very highly of you. He truly holds you in the highest regard, Jordan.
No, Davante, that's my guy. Obviously, I was with him for a good amount of time there in Green Bay my first couple seasons, and I know exactly what type of player he is, and phenomenal guy. Obviously, like you said, just a great guy, speaks highly. And
what about as a player? I mean, would you like to repay the compliment that he paid to you every week on Up and Adams show? Your poise, the way that you handle yourself. What is it about him that makes him stick out?
I mean, you see it every week. I mean, the playmaking ability that he has. When I was with him, he might have dropped 3 passes in the years that I saw him. So he's just a phenomenal receiver, creates so much separation off the line. And, that's his game, killing guys off the line and making crazy catches and making big-time plays. But he's a phenomenal receiver.
All right, so I wanted to touch on that for a couple reasons. Number one, that is a good point. We have to remember Davante really likes Jordan. He always has. He's always held him in high regard as far as, not just a good person, because that wouldn't really go very far for a guy that wants to win it and wants to go somewhere to succeed. He's talked extremely highly of Jordan Love, but then on top of that, remember, he went and did that interview, something to the effect of like, well, I don't regret any of my decisions. But in a very weird way, it was almost like he was saying, had I known, fine. I don't regret any of my decisions. I did what I did, and I'm fine with what I did. Had I known he was going to pop off like that, and that the team wouldn't just go to 0 without Aaron Rodgers, I maybe would have made a different decision. But he's had time now. Davante has to see if the grass is greener, to go to the place that he thought would make him happy. Go play football with his buddy. Well, he got shipped off after a year. Go play closer to home. He hated it there. I mean, it was like dark Davante. It's not a racial thing, so calm down. No, it was like, you remember when he pushed the photographer? Like he went from like this really nice guy in this really nice town with this really nice team that is just a good player and a good guy, to just this guy that seemed like angry and like cocky, and it's like, what's going on with Davante here? So then he's like, all right, screw all this. And Rodgers calls him up like, let's run it back, dude. They got a defense here. It's all going to be great. It's going to be me and you. And he's like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it. He gets traded. It sucks. It just sucks. The coaching sucks. The ownership sucks. The team sucks. Everything sucks. It wasn't even really like the Rodgers-Davante thing. Like, Rodgers, if you look at his grades, he graded out okay. Wasn't his best year ever, but he was fine. Certainly better than the record. Davante's still a good player. It just didn't work. You know why? Because you don't have the organization. That's the problem. And that's, I think, what I think that's what the Rodgers crew, Davante and Bakhtiari and all those guys, I think that's maybe where they were a little bit wrong and they didn't recognize it. They were the superstars that were going to do everything. And all they needed was themselves, and maybe give us some little help here and there or whatever, but otherwise just get the hell out of my way. I don't need you. Rodgers got exactly what he wanted. He got all the players he wanted with the coach that he wanted, and he finally got the defense that he wanted, and it was the worst season of his entire career. What is that all about? It's because he was wrong. Fantastic football player, terrible GM. He doesn't know how to run a football team. You got to play for a good organization. And I'm not going to pretend the Packers are the only one. There's a lot of good organizations. But the Packers are a good organization. The Raiders are not. The Jets are not. He's familiar with the Packers. He knows they do things the right way. Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't agree with everything, but he knows that they do everything the right way, or they do things the right way. He likes the quarterback. He knows the quarterback. He knows and presumably likes the coach. Knows he's a good, talented coach that's going to be able to get him open. It does make sense. Now, the only thing that's kind of standing in the way is, Davante made some comments about he's not sure if he'd be welcome back, which I love that comment to some degree because it feels like he's saying, I'd like to come back. I don't know if they want me back. Now, he could have been talking about the fans. He could have been talking about the organization. I don't know. Now, one of the questions that's come up that I've heard people talk about is, well, what about Goody and his pride? He'd be too prideful to bring him back because he got shot down. I can't say for sure if I know, but I kind of doubt it. I don't even know that it's necessarily. First of all, as far as pride goes, this is a slam dunk. All right, you had Davante. You capitalized and maximized Davante. You were right to want to repay Davante, and Davante turned you down and went somewhere else. You got tons of really good trade compensation for Davante. You let him go play around for a couple years, and then you bring him back for a massive discount. Can you imagine what his contract would be right now? We'd be talking about having to give him some kind of we'd have to be reworking his contract right now, this massive. He's not getting anything near that right now so we get the trade compensation and we get him back at a discount. What does his pride have to do with anything? And the other thing is, when you look at it and it's like, well, maybe they left on bad terms. Maybe, but I don't think so. The bad terms, if anything, were by Davante. Remember, they wanted Rodgers out. That was their decision, but they wanted Davante to stay. So this idea that, he wanted to get rid of all the old Ted Thompson guys. No, he didn't. First of all, he wanted Bakhtiari. Bakhtiari was just too banged up and they couldn't keep him anymore. They didn't want to. It's not like when they got rid of Rodgers, they purged everybody else. Everybody had their own timeline. And they tried to keep Bakhtiari, but his injury situation was just too bad. They tried to keep Davante, and Davante said no. Rodgers is the only one that they wanted out. He's the only one that they were like, he's got to go. We don't want him. I don't care. We're done. So, I don't know, man. I mean, it's kind of if anything, it might just be sort of awkward. Like, how do you begin those conversations? But I think it's easy. I think Gutekunst, assuming this is the direction that they wanted to go, very easily, and that's the other, he's got a whole staff to talk to. I can't imagine he's in a room with 15 other guys, and they're like, hey, Davante'd be perfect. And he's like, yeah, but that was embarrassing. Come on. This is a slam dunk. And, I don't care. I'm not saying this is the best option. Maybe there's a better option. I don't know. If Garrett Wilson becomes available, yeah, that's probably a better option. He's much younger. He can be here forever. He can be a wide receiver 1. Pay him the extra money. I don't care. But, no, I think this would be cool. I think it would be great to bring him back. Packer fans would, any amount of hostility he thinks he's going to get from Packer fans, give me a break. We're going to do frickin' backflips. It was horrible when we lost Davante. It made sense. I was extremely excited with the compensation we got, but it sucked. It's Davante Adams, man. He's one of the all-time greatest Packer players ever. And if we can get him back and help us with the wide receiver room, with the offense, with the locker room, with the leadership, with Jordan, if we can get that playmaking, but you know how cool it was to see Davante making plays on the field with Josh Jacobs? Are you kidding me? And Tucker Kraft? Bring him back and be like, hey, remember that old Packer team that was kind of soft? This ain't that Packer team, dude. Aaron Jones is a great dude, and he played with physicality. This is Josh Jacobs, right? You've had some tight ends before. Let me introduce you to Tucker Kraft. This guy is a moose, all right? We're going to have some fun out here. And Musgrave, I'm not giving up on that frickin' guy. It's going to be a thing, all right? It's going to be a thing. And we got a defense now. We didn't have a defense before. And just wait, we're going to load up. I know we're going to be pissed when we start drafting defensive people, but I don't care. It's going down. And that's the other thing. Gutekunst can call Davante, pitch him all that crap, say, we want you, but we never wanted you to leave. We've always wanted you back. If you're available, if you're willing, we want you here. We've never stopped wanting you to be a Packer. We would love for you to come back and retire. Not just a one-day retirement. We want you to finish your career here. And we're going to make sure that as long as you want to play football, you can be a Green Bay Packer. You pitch him all that. And then on top of that, guess what? You remember last time you were here and we were kind of hamstrung and it was always like we had about $12 million and we could maybe throw a couple bucks here or there. Bro, we got money. Okay? That's part of the reason you're coming back, but we're going to give you money, and then we still have money. All right? So much. It's everywhere. All right? I'm going to let you come over, and you can take a bath in it. All right? Just Scrooge McDuck it. All right? Me and you will just have a rolling around in money day. It's going to be great. And then I'll get you a contract, and we'll go. You can sit in the freaking war room with us as we call up Khalil Mack and some of the boys, and we're just going to go after it. This is it. We're pushing the frickin' chip. First of all, we always push the chips in, but we got a lot of chips now. It's like it's not like, you know how when you get low in chips in poker, you're basically always just going all in, you know, because the frickin' blind is about half your pot anyway. So you just push it in all the time, hoping to double your money so you can get back in the game. That was the Packers. Like, yeah, we're pushing it in, but it's like $50, right, on this $1,000 buy-in table. I got $50 left. Just push it in. Now it's, now we got a little bit of a purse here. So, yeah, it's going to be fun, man. And I just, I don't know. I'd have to sit down and really think it through as far as who do I really, really want at wide receiver? What would be the best case scenario? But it's so hard to just pass on that opportunity. Maybe, and I shouldn't be sentimental. It's stupid. It's not. You don't win Super Bowls that way. But maybe you do. Maybe you do. How much motivation would it be to get Davante back? What would that do to the team? It's like, well, you just need the best football player. I know, but if we've learned anything, we should have learned by now that football isn't Madden. It's not just a matter of that guy has a 98 Madden grade, so I put him on my team, and now he's a 98 grade every single day, every single grade. There's other factors. There's human factors here. It matters. We just talked about that with the Jets. The Jets had a bunch of 80 Madden grade people everywhere, and they sucked. That wouldn't happen in Madden. You know why? Because this isn't Madden. If this was Madden, the Jets would have gone to and probably won the Super Bowl. Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, and Davante Adams. Are you freaking kidding me? You can give them the 2017 Green Bay Packers defense, and they're still at least going to the playoffs. But all right, them's my thoughts on that. We'll get back to maybe some other comments another time. We're going to take a break. We got to do our NFL draft talk. We got a lot of work to do. I think what we're going to do is revisit the list from yesterday and just kind of go through some of the guys and kind of get to know them a little bit better. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. So again, and feel free to disagree, call in, let me know of some names that are maybe off the list that should be on the list. Really quickly, just want to go through it again. So, I've got a list of about 30 guys that I think make a lot of sense for the Packers. They're positions of need, and they're in the range of 15 to 50. We've got 4 corners: Benjamin Morrison, Siobhan Revel, Jahdae Barron, Azaria Thomas. 4 defensive linemen: Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, and Tyleek Williams. We've got, 9 edge rushers or something? James Pierce, Jalen Walker, Shamar Stewart, Nick Scorton, Mike Green, Jack Sawyer, Princely, I got to learn how to say his name, Landon Jackson, TJ Tuimalau, or JT Tuimalau. 4 interior offensive linemen, and Tyler Booker, Donovan Jackson, Jonah Savanea, Greg Zabel. We've got, I believe, 4 or 5 tackles, 5. Josh Simmons, Armand Membo, Josh Connerly, Arante Ursi, and Cameron Williams. It's kind of far away. My eyes suck. Luther Burden at wide receiver. We got 4 wide receivers: Emeka Buka, Metha Golden, and Trey Harris. So those are the guys that I want to get to know a lot better. So what I want to do is kind of do a compare and contrast thing to start with our 4 corners, and this is probably just what we'll do for today. So we'll kind of get to know these 4 guys and how they stack up against one another. We've done a little bit of this. We're going to just, if we double up, we double up. I don't care. All right, first off, Mr. Benjamin Morrison, I had mentioned before, currently not at the top of my list, but that's how I felt about Edgerrin Cooper last year, and then I went back and watched him a second time, and I was like, this is my dude. So, Benjamin Morrison, 6 foot 190, Notre Dame cornerback, made a big impression as a freshman, came out, burst onto the scene, 6 interceptions. Not the biggest guy, but seen as a day one sort of savvy, playing the ball, lockdown number 1 corner type. Great ball skills, fluid hips, high IQ. Weaknesses, a little bit smaller, can be a little bit over-aggressive and grabby in press coverage and whatnot. He does miss some tackles, partially because of that aggressiveness and whatnot. And he did have a hip injury in his junior season, so that cut his junior season short. So he's got a little bit, somewhat minor, but a little bit of an injury concern. As far as NFL comps, think of him as sort of a Denzel Ward type. To be fair, Denzel Ward's somewhat similar to Jair, so there's that. Siobhan Revel is a senior in college at East Carolina. He's the exact opposite. He's a big dude, 6'3". He's about 100, we'll say 195. It might be a little generous, but 195 pounds. But he is the long, tall athlete that the Packers tend to love that hasn't super worked out for us, Stokes and Kevin King and whatnot, but doesn't mean he's the same guy. Does have some injury concerns. 2024 season was lost to an ACL. So there are issues. But strengths, he's long, competitive toughness, great feel for zone coverage, great communicator on the field, ability to track plays. And as I said before, he's known as a guy that will excel in sort of a cover 3 scheme. Now, I don't know what the plan is for this defense, but I know that we played a ton of cover 2, and I know that we were told that that was because the players kind of dictated that. That's the defense we built was a Joe Barry cover 2 defense. We didn't really have the horses to be able to run the defense he wanted to. They need a pass rusher for sure, and they need the right corners to be able to do it. So if the plan is to get back to sort of a cover 3 style of defense, cover 1, cover 3, obviously you don't do that every single time, but corners that can excel in that kind of a thing, this is kind of what you're looking at. He is a physical, aggressive zone corner. Now, again, we're going to have to be able to see if they think he can play in a man style, because that is going to be a big part of the direction I believe that Jeff Hafley wants to move in. But the bottom line is he is seen kind of by everyone as a lock day one super talented guy, but with questions specifically with his injuries. So, if it wasn't for the injury stuff, he probably would have been out of our reach. Now with the injury / small school stuff, you wonder if he's going to kind of not only fall to us, but possibly fall past us like some of the corners did last year. We thought were going to be gone and ended up slipping and ended up being very good corners. Jahdae Barron is 5'11", but he's 200 pounds, so he's a little stockier. Very disruptive guy out of Texas, seen as really good in man and zone. I think the only real question for me anyways is, is he a slot guy or can he actually be a boundary guy? And that was a question for Jair. He was seen as a slot guy, and I remember even saying, maybe he could be good enough to be an inside-outside guy. He could play both, Turns out he was so good, he just stayed outside, which sounds weird, but at the time that really wasn't seen as a super viable option. But again, Packers wouldn't have done what they did if they thought he was just a slot guy. Aggressive, quickness in short areas, and solid in run support. Another guy that's got a ton of production on the ball. And then finally, Azaria Thomas out of Florida State. He is a junior, listed at 6'2", around 198 pounds. Offers a nice blend of length and athleticism, solid physical profile. Although the production isn't quite there like it is with the other guys, which is sort of the downside. Good length, punchy press technique, which is a solid thing for the Green Bay Packers. Remember that's something that they really liked or were teaching. But very disruptive on the line, very physical. He's kind of seen as a developmental guy who can evolve into a reliable outside or hybrid defender, which I know is going to be a red flag for fans and probably move him up the list of probability that the Packers take him. Some of the weaknesses, he's kind of seen as more of a tweener, not a pure corner, also not an ideal safety. Man coverage can be inconsistent. Needs some refinement and short area quickness to handle NFL caliber receivers in press. He's kind of projected more into a zone scheme by a lot of people. And again, he is kind of seen as more of a hybrid. There are probably some people out there calling him a safety or saying that he needs to be transitioned to a safety when he gets into the NFL. Possibly one of these safety / nickel type of guys, It's becoming very popular in the NFL now. But if we kind of compare the four, Morrison is the smallest at 6 foot 190, but he makes up for it with the quickness and the IQ. Revel is the big dude, a tall guy at least, at 6'3", got all the length, but he has injury concerns. Barron, solid dude, 5'11", 200 pounds, aggressive, physical, possibly a nickel. Thomas, 6'2", good mix of sort of the length, the size, but probably the most unrefined. If you look at their playing style, Morrison, ball skills guy, leadership guy, press corner. Kind of checks a lot of the boxes. Revel, seen more as a zone guy, great awareness and communication, but again, the ACL thing is scary. Barron, big, stocky, physical guy, short area quickness, again, kind of more of a slot attribute. Lacks a little bit of the size that you'd like, but again, he probably makes up for it with some of the physicality. And then Thomas, the tweener, strong physical presence. So, just look, off the top of my head, if I were to go through this and just look at what I just said, what makes the most sense? Who would Jeff Hafley sit down and say, I want that dude? The cover 3 thing with Revel makes sense. The fact that he's 6'3" and the Packers seem to like that makes sense. But knowing the Packers, first round, small school, guy with an ACL injury, I don't know. You talk about Notre Dame, much bigger school, kind of checks all the boxes, high IQ, which Gutekunst loves. I don't know. I might lean, again, not me personally, but in terms of where the Packers are leaning, Benjamin Morrison maybe makes a little bit more sense. I mean, really, you could there is a case for each. That's Benjamin Morrison. Siobhan Revel kind of checks the Gutekunst wants like the big athletic freak people box. Jahdae Barron checks the physicality, smash you in the mouth box. Azaria Thomas is the project. He's the guy that, if he can meet his peak, that main upside, he could be something special. He's that dude. But again, as of right now, subject to change, my favorite is Siobhan Revel. Who would I put at the front if Gutekunst had his pick of all 4 and had to go in any direction? Kind of leaning Benjamin Morrison, but it's pretty close. All right. We will pick this up tomorrow. We'll go through some of these. Eventually, we'll have to do edge. That's going to take some time, but we'll just go position by position and get to kind of know these guys a little bit. I'm not going to take a break. I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.